Recognizing Ope, Gordon Head.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise to speak very briefly in support of my colleague, the member from Saanich North and the Islands hoist amendment on this bill. As my colleague, I think, has made a very, very compelling case as to why we need the additional 6 months' time to reflect upon this. More so, I would suggest members in this House who have not received the information that they need to make a decision. I've heard many talk about the importance of evidence-based decision-making, and it's something that's fundamental to who we are as members of the BC Green Caucus. I've heard others in this place talk about the importance of that. Yet we know that the information, the evidence on which to make such a decision has not been presented to us here in committee stage. We know that this bill has 3 components to it. It has a component to repeal the Liquefied Natural Gas Project Development Agreement Act. There's a component to repeal the Income Tax Act, the LNG Income Tax Act, and there was at the same time a component of the bill to retain the tax credit, the corporate welfare on steroids that existed within the LNG Income Tax Act. We know in what has only got to be described as a bizarre set of things that have happened here, we know we've broken precedent in this place. We've broken historical precedent in Westminster parliamentary democracies during the course of these debates, not once, but twice during the course of the debates. And that, in and of itself, I would suggest, in and of itself, that should give us pause to reflect upon this bill with the additional time that we would get through this hoist amendment. We had an amendment put forward by the BC Liberals, an amendment to quibble about where the deck chairs on the Titanic should be prior to that Titanic sinking to the bottom of the ocean. We had an amendment that actually led to a tie vote, 41-41. And with respect, Honourable Speaker, in the long, rich tradition of Westminster parliamentary democracies, we had a precedent set that goes directly against the historic nature of this building, where a chair votes out of conscience, in a partisan manner, with the opposition. This is outrageous, Honourable Speaker. It's outrageous, given that we, at the same time in the UK, we had the ruling set out why the Speaker in the UK, ruled with government, because that is the role in a Westminster parliamentary democracy of a chair, which is to ensure that the debates flow forward. Yet that was our first precedent-setting decision. Very, very unfortunate. But that was not that's not the only one. The second one, which too gives reason to pause as to why we need to reflect upon this bill for a few more months, because clearly, the process in this place leaves a lot to desired. And that was my colleague from Cowichan Valley, who spent many, many hours going through the media to determine what information was missing members in order to inform them on the decision that was going to be made today. Information that was not present, not given during committee stage, information that she took upon herself to find and bring forward, and she was shut down at third reading. The member was told to sit down, and her voice was silenced. Outrageous, Honourable Speaker. 2 times during the course of the last 48 hours, 2 times we've had such statements, and that is why it's critical for us to reflect upon this. With that, Honourable Speaker, I'll take my place and suggest to members opposite that this is the time for us to actually reflect upon the implications on this. And I certainly hope we're joined in voting in support of my member's amendment.